Welcome, everyone. Starting a bit slow today as well to make sure we have audio with us. We had some trouble the other day. Hopefully, everything is working fine. Welcome back to day 4 of launch week. Hopefully, you can hear us by now. Hello, hello, hello.
We have a official confirmation that the audio is working.
Fantastic. That's all we need. Confirmation. So it's been a lovely launch week so far, but we have two big days left, so today and tomorrow, and some of the best stuff is coming out these last two live streams. So hope you stick around for this stream and dial in tomorrow as well. So let's get going. I guess we can introduce ourselves again if you haven't tuned in before. I'm Marcus, one of the co-founders, along here with Andre, the other founder. Getting some love in the chat. Teddy says hello. He's been to most of these, even the one without the audio. So hello, Teddy. And where are we in the launch week? Yeah, so day 4, and we're doing this live stream with a Q&A at the end, and then we're doing another one tomorrow. So before we get into today's launch, let's do a quick recap of everything we've talked about already. So on Monday, we launched custom middleware for Encore TS. That's bringing the ability to define your own middleware to Encore's TypeScript framework. This was a super highly requested feature, and so far it seems people are really liking this. It was a great live stream with a live demo from Frederick on the team. You can find the recording if you go to the Launch Week website, so encore.dev/launchweek, and scroll down to the day 1 launch. There's a link to both the live stream recording and the YouTube promo video for this as well, and the documentation for custom middleware. And then day 2, we launched public object storage bucket, as well as CDN support and R2, Cloudflare R2 support in Encore Cloud. Again, sort of a highly requested feature. We launched object storage support, I guess it's a few weeks ago now, or a month ago, and this was sort of a natural extension to that, making it simple and seamless to use CDNs together with your Encore applications. And again, you can find the recording, the live stream recording, which is actually in day 3, given we had audio troubles on the second day. So check out the day 3 recording for the live stream on this. It's on the Launch Week website, so encore.dev/launchweek as before. And then yesterday we talked about this, which is the new sort of separation between Encore Cloud, which is the managed service for automating all of your AWS and GCP deployments for Encore applications, and the open source project, which now lives alone on encore.dev. We introduced the revamped documentation, improved documentation, and extended docs for self-hosting and configuring infrastructure without using the cloud platform. And again, you can find all the info on that on the website. So with that recap, let's talk about day 4. What are we launching today? Well, take it away, Andre.
Yeah, so this has been probably one of the most highly requested features since we launched Encore TS in earlier this year. And it's what we call advanced validation or value-based validation. And as you know, coming from sort of like initially we had JavaScript, which is a dynamically typed language. It was really took off with sort of the web and all that. And after that, we had TypeScript and sort of ways of making JavaScript more type safe, which today is probably like the main way of developing JavaScript is with TypeScript. That's because we really see the benefit of increased type safety in terms of just building more robust and reliable programs. Um, but one of the big downsides with that is, uh, yeah, we'll see what's happening. But one of the big downsides with that, right, is that TypeScript is just for helping you write code. Once you actually compile to JavaScript to run it, all of that type information is lost. So that's how Encore is different in many ways. We do sort of static analysis to really understand and parse the TypeScript types, and then we use that to validate the incoming requests. And Encore TS has done this from day one. But what we heard from you is that there's other types of validations that you also want to be able to do. So things like checking if a string is a certain length, or checking if something is of a certain pattern, or validating sort of that a number is within a certain range, etc., etc. And we didn't really have a good solution for this, so a lot of people would keep using SOD and Typebox and things like that for these use cases. And we felt that was a lot of extra boilerplate, and that Encore TS's sort of native TypeScript types was a much better fit for sort of building TypeScript applications in general. And so we wanted to really close that gap and provide something for those use cases too. So here we are. Here's advanced validation. Starting today, Encore TS supports more advanced value-based validation types that you can really easily use in any TypeScript Encore APIs. And Encore will, like everything else, it will parse all of this information at compile time, and then it will offload. It will take that and it will hand it over to Rust to actually enforce this validation. So it's extremely performant, and it's really sort of statically defined. We, starting right out the gate, we have support for most of the things that you want in terms of just being able to validate things. So it's checking if something is a URL, if it's an email, minimum and maximum lengths, and sort of ranges for strings and numbers and arrays, as well as things like if it matches a certain pattern with regular expressions, or just like starts with or ends with, things like that. So we think this will cover sort of probably like 95% of all use cases for validation. And if there's more use cases, we can always extend the support later. It's pretty future-proof for extending. And you can, of course, as before, always define your own sort of validation logic in middleware or in your API endpoints themselves as well. So let's jump in and see what it looks like. So here we have it. This is some source code where we've defined a params interface. And basically with Encore TS, you can now just import the encore.dev/validate package. And then it provides a bunch of utility types that you can use together with the sort of built-ins. So you can say, this is a number, and it's between 3 and 1,000. The number is between 3 and 1,000. Or you can say this is a string, and the minimum length is 5, and the maximum length is 20. So as you can see, it really is quite intuitive once you get into it. I'm not aware of any validation library that works the same way, because with most of them you have to sort of do it at runtime, so you have all of this very unnatural looking syntax that is quite it feels very sort of bloated once you're just used to working with normal TypeScript types, and it really reads like English, right? So you can say this is a string and it's a URL or an email, and we think this is a really it takes a little bit of getting used to, But once you do it, it's really natural. It's really easy to just extend any value with additional validation. And as you can see here at the end, you can even combine it and say, this is an array of strings, and every string is an email. And then Encore will validate both that the array is a maximum of 10 items, and every item is a valid email address. So it really composes really well. And that's we think this is a really nice way of achieving both the ability to express validation rules easily and keeping it sort of native TypeScript types. And it integrates really nicely with everything else in Encore.
So should we look a bit at how it works, or how it works under the hood?
Yeah. So as with everything in Encore TS, we've tried to make it as performant as possible. And that means since Node.js and all the JavaScript runtimes are fundamentally single-threaded, Encore TS offloads as much as possible to Rust, because Rust is an extremely high-performance language, but it's also fully multi-threaded. And so the way it works is Encore parses all of the TypeScript type information in your program, and it uses that to understand for every endpoint, what's the incoming request look like, what does the response look like, etc. And that information is used to do things like render API documentation and do the API Explorer and tracing and so on. But it's also being used to do runtime validation. So all of that information that Encore parses is actually then embedded into the program on startup, and the Rust runtime reads that information and builds up a highly optimized sort of request validation state machine. And that state machine is then used to process every incoming request and validate it as it's being read from the network. Once it finds that the request is not valid, it's immediately sort of rejected, and those rejected requests are not even sent to Node.js at all, which means that if you have like some attacker or something that's trying to do like a denial of service attack, it will not actually affect the Node.js event loop at all. They will just be immediately discarded at the edge by the Rust runtime. And this is really powerful. It means that from the perspective of writing Encore TS business logic, you never have to like worry about, is this field set? Is it valid? Is it matching what I expect it to? You can really just trust that all of that has been taken care of by the Rust runtime already.
That's fantastic. We have a question from Simon asking if there's any benchmark data comparing Encore TS validation with SOD, for instance.
Yeah, so great question. We have a lot of benchmarks that are demonstrating, Encore versus a whole set of frameworks and validation libraries. It's because Encore is sort of doing both the incoming request processing and the validation. It's difficult to compare it only to SOD, but we have compared it to, for example, Bun together with SOD, or Elysia with Typebox, Hono with Typebox, and so on, so that you can get a feel for like Encore versus these very common combinations of like an HTTP framework and a validation stack. It's not really possible to separate the two in the case of Encore, because they're both happening sort of at the same time. But the highlight is Encore is about 9 times faster than Express, 3 times faster than Elysia and Hono, and that's with type validation enabled on both sides, and so you can see it's really quite a massive difference once you start to do actual schema validation.
So suggestion from Teddy to benchmark Encore versus Encore with SOD. I guess that's a good idea. Do you see any problems with that?
I mean, what you're really measuring then is the performance of SOD, right? Because Encore is already doing its own validation in both sides, and the only difference is SOD's performance. And if you want to learn more about SOD's performance, I'm sure they have their own benchmarks, and you can read up on that. But it's not the worst idea. It's just like we don't want to claim to sort of provide official benchmarks for SOD itself. They're better suited to do that.
Yeah, makes sense. Then another question, I guess, boiling it down is like, does Encore support Deno instead of Node?
Great question. We don't yet support Deno. We don't support Bun either. That said, Encore provides, for example, if you look at the benchmarks that we published about Encore in general, is Encore is faster than both Bun and Deno in terms of like HTTP performance. And when it comes to like running JavaScript, they're all using the same sort of underlying JavaScript engines. So I believe Deno also uses V8, whereas Bun uses, I believe it's a Firefox JavaScript engine. I could be mistaken. So they're all very comparable in like actual JavaScript execution performance. So we do plan on supporting them, but just note that you're already getting essentially better performance with Encore today. And that's so Encore supporting them is not going to give you like another huge performance boost because you're already getting that performance boost from the Rust runtime.
Yeah, so adding support for them is mainly to give you the flexibility of using the runtime you prefer because they may have other benefits outside of performance, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then another question from Teddy, if you can use custom error messages on the param.
If you mean on the validation, then currently no. We do want to provide better validation error messages, so that's an area of future improvement for sure. If you're doing your own, like throwing your own error from an API, then you can add custom information to those errors. But because the validation errors happen in the Rust runtime, we don't currently have a way of customizing those errors.
Great question. So should we move on to a live demo to show some interesting uses?
Absolutely. So if you are watching my screen, here's a very simple Encore application. And I'm just going to walk through how this looks in practice. You've already gotten sort of a teaser. But as with everything in Encore, you type Encore run, it will spin up. And here we have like a very simple API endpoint. This is the same sort of underlying structure that we just looked at. And here we can see this is Encore's API Explorer. You can, of course, call this and it works fine. Note that this is a number, so if you try to pass in a string, you get an error. So this is Encore's validating that the types are what you expect. So you're saying, okay, we got a string, but we expected a number in the foo field. And so this is the existing validation that Encore already provided. It's type safety, right? And that's all well and good, but sometimes you want to be able to do something more, like you want to say, maybe this number should be, it shouldn't be like a negative number. So now you can just say import minimum from validate and just say minimum 0. Hit save. Now if you call this, you get an error saying the field foo value must be at least 0, got 100. And so you can see that you don't get like a generic error saying, okay, validation failed. You get the field that was incorrect, as well as like a fairly easy to understand error message that is specific to the validation rule that it was failing to satisfy. And we can of course do the same thing here, where we say, this is a list of emails, but every entry here must be at least length 3. Then if you pass in an A here, you get emails 0, length too short, expected at least 3. So the error messages, or even though you can customize them, they're designed to be really easy to understand what you did wrong. You can of course do something, if you want, you can do something really nonsensical. Yeah, you can say minimum length must be 3, or it must be a valid email. Actually, let's do like minimum length at least 10, or a valid email. Then you can say, if you just pass in A, it will fail because the length is less than 10. If you pass in a really long thing, we have to fix that too. Then it works, but you can also pass in a valid email, and then it also works even though this is less than length 10. So you can see it's really easy to compose. It's easy to build up, fairly complex validation rules. You can of course use it to validate the length of arrays too. So if you call this, you get that the length of this array is too short, and that's really it. We also have, you can say this is let's call this a URL, and you can of course do is URL. If I import it. And now this will fail. Value is not a URL. But you can also do things like and starts with, and say, okay, this must start with this. So now if I do like an FTP, you get an error saying it doesn't start with HTTPS, whereas this works. So that's validation. Hopefully all of this makes sense. It's really powerful once you get into it. It's a bit strange to see validation expressed here in the TypeScript type system, but once you get over that, it's super powerful.
Very good. And as I say, it's very sort of readable. It's like plain English. We have a question from Simon asking if there's support for validating nested objects or arrays within the request body.
Yeah, you can of course just do something like this, and that will work just fine. Let me remove all of this, so we can just do that. Then you get an error saying that this nested field is too short. Yeah, you can really compose them however you like. It works as you would expect.
So a follow-up from Simon, does it support regular expressions? Is this just trolling to get you to write some regex live? Let's see.
Well, that's what the AI is for, right? Copilot will save me. So I can do that. And then if I put in this works. If I put in something that is not A to Z, then I get a validation error. So yeah, regex works. You have starts with, ends with. You have, of course, max len, etc., etc.
Fantastic. Yeah. Hopefully you, everyone watching, will check it out and give us your feedback. We love to hear your thoughts and questions. The best place to ask us is either right now in the Q&A, or when you have a chance, you can always find us on Discord. So encore.dev/discord. But we do have a question already. So if you implement validation in a custom middleware, will the middleware be running in the Rust runtime before the JavaScript layer?
No, all of the middleware that you define is running inside of Node.js because it's JavaScript code, so there's really no other way. And so all of that will run after the Rust validation, etc. Everything happening in Rust side is before middleware, and then custom middleware runs, and then after all the custom middleware, then the actual request handler runs, and then all of the custom middleware has an opportunity to sort of inspect the response, so it sort of bubbles back up, and then the Rust runtime takes care of the final response and returns it to the caller.
But it's a great question, and we've had a lot of similar questions before. What's a good way of reasoning about it if you're curious about, does X run in the Rust runtime or the Node one? Like, how can people think about it?
I mean, it's a good question. I think we can do a better job documenting exactly the semantics. Really, a lot of Encore is about static analysis and sort of declarative, so that you can tell Encore what you want, and then as when something has been done declaratively, like you're saying, this API endpoint requires these fields. You're declaring that with the type information, or the new validation syntax is also declarative. You know, you're just specifying what you want. You're not specifying how to do it. All of that functionality is implemented in Rust, and same thing goes with infrastructure integrations. You're declaratively defining infrastructure, and all the JavaScript code that you're running that is like executing JavaScript, all of that will be done in Node.js because there's no other way, really.
Excellent. So we'll talk between ourselves and banter for a bit to see if we have any more questions coming in. There's a bit of a delay between what we're saying and what the world is seeing on YouTube and other places. So a question for you, Andre, from me: what's been your favorite launch so far this launch week?
I mean, I think it's got to be this one.
Must be. Will it get
every
even
launch is better? I don't know.
Well, you have to
we'll
say
see.
yes. We haven't peaked
Okay.
yet. It's only Thursday.
Okay, it's all uphill from here. Yeah, no, I'm super excited about tomorrow's launch. It's gonna be a big one, and I think people will like it. I think, yeah, what I really like about this one is just it's something that hasn't really been done before, like this like declarative way of defining validation, and I think it's actually super powerful, and it's intuitive and simple. And I like that we can sort of offload it all to Rust. And it's something that a lot of people have been asking for, right? Like that's how we approach everything we do here. It's like, okay, let's find really good ways uh, of building backends and sort of building distributed systems in a way that's both sort of reliable and type safe um, and performant, right? But it's done in a way that's like it feels very Encore, in a way that yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I hope you are too. Um, and keep the feedback coming. Like we're the reason why this feature is launched today is because of you making your voices heard and just helping us figure out the best way to make Encore an even better open source framework. That's the power of open source. Right?
Absolutely. And yeah, so join Discord if you haven't already. Use the help channel, the suggestion channel, and give us your thoughts. That's the best way to help out. But going back to what you were just saying, Andre, you said this approach hasn't really been done before. Why do you think that is?
It's really this fact that TypeScript types are erased at runtime. You know, like any other framework that you use, all that information just disappears, and that's it makes sense because you know JavaScript engines don't understand TypeScript types. I mean, JavaScript is not a statically typed language, um, and so it makes sense that they are just erased. That's just how JavaScript works. Um, but it means that there's like this whole design space that hasn't really been explored. I think Encore is the first of its kind to actually like parse and analyze TypeScript types for use at runtime, as far as I know. There's obviously a lot of tooling around using it to sort of improve the editor experience and to help you write code, but nothing that I've seen that will do static analysis to actually use it at runtime. And I think that's really interesting. And it gives us a whole lot of tools to um, to do things like this, where it's not only used at runtime, but it's also offloaded to Rust to validate, right? And not just run as part of JavaScript.
Yeah, lots of exciting space to explore. We have a comment with a question in it. Encore seems so cool. Yes, it is, for sure. Why aren't more people talking about it? You got to go hard on marketing. Well, yes, of course. But with a twist that is developers really hate marketing, right? Nobody likes being sold to. So the absolute best way of getting people to talk about it is if you talk about it. So developers, engineers telling their coworkers or their friends or their community about it is the best way for us to grow, and that's really important for us to sort of get the right people in the door with the best feedback and the best ideas for how to improve it for everyone. So we want first and foremost people to use it and genuinely get value from it, right? And from there we can grow and have them want to tell their friends. And that's a really efficient way of growing. And another way is just to spend millions on Google ads and stupid things like that is not really going to give us much in the end, we think. So if you want to help us with marketing, then just talk about it.
Yeah, I think it's something that you know, especially with yesterday's launch, where it's much clearer. You know, here's the fully open source framework. Just take it and use it and enjoy it. It's yeah, help us make it even better. That's what we're here to do. And whether it's you using it or telling a friend about it or providing feedback, helping us shape the direction of it. It's all extremely beneficial to everyone in the whole open source community.
Yeah, and it's been a while since we talked about any sort of stats, but just in the Discord community, we're over 1,200 members, and it's growing quite quickly. We only launched that community back in May, and most of people have found their way there since we really got some traction with Encore for TypeScript back in sort of September time. So it's growing very quickly, which is great to see. Very, very fun for us to be a part of. And then beyond that, like there's now thousands of people who are using Encore, and many that we don't really engage with because they're using the open source product and they're not in the community or sort of interacting with us on GitHub. But just from the people we are interacting with, like the use cases get more varied every single day. We have everything from your sort of SaaS apps and B2B apps to crypto use cases to infrastructures with electric vehicles, that kind of thing, to banks, to what else? What have we seen recently? There were some people working on like a space thing that were looking at it a while back. So it's very, very broad, which I guess is sort of a testament to the sort of fundamental benefits of the framework.
Yeah, I mean, we're just trying our best to make it better. That's what we're here to do.
Every single day.
Yeah.
Talking about every single day, tomorrow is the final and last day of this launch week. So Friday, we'll launch a very exciting feature. We're streaming again, same time tomorrow. We'll do another Q&A, same time tomorrow. So please tune in then and bring your friends. So with that, thank you so much for watching today, and we'll see you again in 23 hours and something minutes, 22 minutes. Cool. See you, everyone.
Thanks.